Watch this.
Stepping down to stage 3, Governor Little pumps the brakes on Idaho's reopening process as cases spike and healthcare capacity dwindles. Decision 2020. We're in the home stretch, but tens of thousands have already cast their vote in Idaho's largest county. How early returns are stacking up against past elections. Rivals turn into allies after a local football team is hit by tragedy. The huge gesture by several high schoolers that could inspire all of us. Sometimes you have to go back to move forward. That's the message from Governor Brad Little, who today moved Idaho back to stage 3 of the reopening process. COVID-19 cases have been going up across the state for quite some time now, but a key factor of today's decision, hospital capacity. We've sounded the alarm about the hospital capacity for weeks now on the 208. We've heard from hospitals across Idaho in Twin Falls and Coeur d'Alene who said they were at or nearing capacity. Yet the local health districts overseeing Twin Falls and Coeur d'Alene refused to make any sort of move. Actually, the Panhandle Health District did make a move. They recently rescinded a mask mandate for Kootenai County, even with COVID-19 cases at their highest in Kootenai County since at least July. Governor Little had said when the pandemic began and after the statewide shutdown was over that he would leave it up to each individual health district to decide for themselves what was best for their counties when it comes to responding to COVID-19. But today he says he feels the statewide rollback is necessary to keep Idahoans safe.
I sincerely hope that some people have passed the point of thinking the pandemic is not real or is not a big deal, or that their personal actions don't really affect anything. We have seen the direct impact between rising case numbers in our communities and the overwhelming impacts on our healthcare system, something that affects all of us, whether we have COVID or not. I still maintain the best defense against this aggressive and damaging virus is personal responsibility and our actions.
Okay, so what changes happen in this rollback? Stage 3 group sizes are recommended to be 50 people or fewer. Customers of bars, restaurants, and nightclubs must remain seated while inside unless they need to use a restroom. What about schools? Sports and classes, otherwise referred to as educational activities, are not classified under the gathering size limitations. Church services and voting are exempt from these limits as well, as long as they adhere to social distancing and sanitation requirements. Governor Little perhaps feeling a little bit today like he's walking a very tight line, wanting to leave it up to local control, but with mounting pressure of cases going up and hospitals stretched thin, making an executive statewide decision today. And for more insight about today's decision and the factors that went into it, we want to bring in Dr. David Pate. Dr. Pate retired earlier this year as CEO of St. Luke's Health System. He's also a member of Idaho's Coronavirus Task Force. So, Dr. Pate, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to ask you kind of what it was like to be a fly on the wall. What was it in these meetings that pushed Governor Little to do this today? Was it the hospital capacity or was there more to this?
Well, I certainly think the hospital capacity was a major issue, and rightly so. This poses a tremendous threat to Idahoans if our hospitals get overwhelmed. But I think what you also heard from the governor, he's trying to, as you described it, walking this tightrope. He's trying to balance how can he keep the economy open? How can he keep kids in school? How can he have hospitals able to take care of people and realize that's not just COVID people, that's people that get heart attacks and strokes and car accidents and the things that we see all the time. So how can he achieve all of those things, but yet also address the fact that we are on our third spike? It's a bigger spike than we've seen before. There's no signs that it's getting any better. And we are just getting ready for influenza. So I think all of those factors, plus the fact that our local leaders, in many cases, not all, have let us down.
Have let us down. Those are pretty strong words, Dr. Pate. Again, going back to the task force, you're a member. What were those conversations like over the last few days? I mean, is this what the task force recommended? Did Governor Little, was he reluctant at all to this? Did he listen to you guys?
Well, first of all, the work group has been providing input to the governor, but the governor makes these decisions not just based on our input, but input from multiple sources. He has talked to hospital leaders recently. He's talked to, of course, the public health experts at the State Department of Health and Welfare. So many things go into this factor in his decision. But let me just say, one of the things that I have so enjoyed about working with Governor Little through this whole process, and of course, I've been involved from the beginning of this work group, is he's always said, I'm going to be guided by the experts, by the science, and by the data. And he's remained true to that.
So you are the experts, and the task force is made up of experts. So do you guys ever talk about doing more? Have you ever recommended to the governor that we do more, maybe mandate masks statewide? And what is his response to that? He was adamant today at that press conference that he wants to leave that up to local control. But then, Dr. Pate, you have health districts like South Central Public Health who say, no, we're not going to do it. We want the governor to do it. So if he's not doing it, they're not doing it. What happens? Where do we go from here? How do we get cases down?
We do have discussions about these things, and certainly I get lobbied by many in the medical profession that want the governor to take the steps of a statewide mask mandate, and we've talked about that. But there's definitely pros and cons. The first thing is that there are, if you look at our state, about 53% of our state is already under a mandate. And of course, you know, and I know from being out and about, even though the mayor of Boise put in a mandate, even though Central District Health put in a mandate, we still see people that don't comply with it. So I think that one of the things that the governor rightly pointed out in his comments is, yes, he's taking an action, but none of this works without us taking personal responsibility. And, you know, because we're not going to throw everybody in jail, but, you know, there's got to be a point where, and it's especially frustrating when people say, well, I want my kids in school, but then they're not willing to wear a mask, or they're willing to get into large gatherings and not keep a distance. We have to understand we cannot have our cake and eat it too. And we're talking about small sacrifices. We're talking about keep your distance and wear a mask. We're not saying you need to donate an organ. You know, that it's just do that. And it's not forever. We do have the promise of vaccines coming. It's really the way I think about it. It's, can we just do this for the school year? Can we just do this till next summer? That will get us through the tough spot.
Well, Dr. Pate, thank you for that insight. And I keep going back to, I saw a meme on social media. Your grandparents were called to war. You're being asked to wear a mask, or you're being asked to sit on your couch. Kind of puts things into perspective there. Dr. Pate, thank you for your insight. All right, well, you heard Dr. Pate mention the health districts in Idaho. It is probably safe to say over the last 7 months that more attention has been brought to Idaho's 7 health districts than probably in their entire existence. So let's look at the history of the health districts in more detail now. First, here's how the districts break down across the state. Each district has its own board made up of a county commissioner from each county it represents and at least one physician. And all members, according to state code, are chosen with due regard to their knowledge and interest in public health. As for their existence, Idaho's health districts haven't been around that long, considering our statehood of 130 years. The legislature established the 7 health districts in 1970, partly because of mounting pressure to ensure every Idahoan received the kind of public health service that was highly recommended by the federal government at that time. Up until then in Idaho, it was left up to individual counties, and most counties struggled to provide that kind of health service for their residents. So the state stepped in 1970 and established the structure of what we now know today as those 7 health districts, again to ensure a public health service for every Idahoan. And today, despite efforts to let the system do what it was established to do in 1970, Governor Little making the move to roll back all of Idaho to stage 3. Why? To ensure the health and well-being of every Idahoan, because as Dr. Pate says, the majority of Idaho's 7 health districts were seemingly failing to do so. All right, let's talk about the election now. That is the other big talker out there. Remember when all the excitement of an election used to just fall on one day, Election Day? Well, now with absentee voting and early voting, we get to report on the excitement for nearly a month. And nothing gets me more excited than a bunch of numbers, so here goes. When it comes to absentee ballots, Ada County issued 143,667 absentee ballots for the 2020 general election. Now, we know numbers don't mean a whole lot without context, so maybe this will help. For the 2016 general election, Ada County issued 26,968 absentee ballots. In 2012, Ada County issued about 32,000 absentee ballots. In 2008, 49,861. More absentee ballots were requested in Ada County this year than the last 3 general elections combined, if I did my math right. When it comes to early voting, so far, according to Ada County Elections website, 28,269 people have voted early in Ada County. At this point in time, during the 2016 general election, almost 31,000 people had already voted early. A sick out or a strike, that's the sticking point of a legal battle between parents and the Gem State's largest school district. Today, that lawsuit had its first day in court. Pandemic presentation. Besides the sweets, spooks, and scares, pageantry is a key ingredient to the perfect Halloween. So we look into our crystal ball for some costume advice from a 3-year-old. While we wait for our witch's brew to boil, why don't you weigh in on today's show? Text us your thoughts, your comments, your questions to this number, 208-321-5614. We'll get to some of those comments at the end of the show. The West Ada Sick Out. Is it a strike, and are teachers allowed to do it? That is at the center of a new lawsuit filed by a group of parents against the West Ada Teachers Union. The sick out happened after West Ada's Board of Trustees chose to reclassify its red category from online learning to an alternating hybrid schedule that included in-person learning. The point of the lawsuit, this sick out is a strike, which they say is illegal in Idaho. A case from 1977 in Oneida County was a big topic of discussion during a hearing today and is cited in the lawsuit. According to the court, the Oneida case, in general terms, ruled teacher strikes are illegal under common law. But in that same case, the court refused to issue an injunction, finding that the conduct of the school district was inequitable or unfair. Now, some might ask, could this be the case with West Ada?
What the court clearly said is we don't decide the issue of whether strikes by Idaho teachers are actually prohibited by law. We agree there's no protection for striking teachers, but that doesn't mean that teachers going on strike is illegal in the sense that it is prohibited.
Is questioning whether or not the sick out was a strike. And I think, again, there the law is very clear across the country. He might be correct. In fact, he is correct that there's no Idaho law on that point. But in that case, Your Honor, I would encourage you to look to the dozen plus cases from other courts across the country that have uniformly held, I think, that a sick out is functionally a strike and should be treated as such.
The judge says the West Ada Education Association is entitled to more notice than they were given. Because of that, he did not make a ruling today, and he scheduled another hearing in late November. But shortly before today's hearing, Union President Eric Thies says the sick out may be a thing of the past. Thies said if in the future West Ada School District teachers continue to feel that the school district is violating their contracts and putting their health and safety at risk for not following their own policies, the WAEA has and will utilize other methods to support and advance their concerns. As we mentioned, this case isn't over and potentially impacts more students than any district in the state. And with the school board set to meet tomorrow night, we'll find out if this statement holds true. Well, how about this? There is a reason extracurricular activities exist in our schools. They are, in a way, still part of our kids' education, even in this pandemic, because these activities really help teach life lessons, lessons of in this case, coming together when a competitor is going through a really hard time. That was on full display this weekend after members of the Emmett football team lost one of their own, announced publicly just hours before the school was set to play for a district championship on Friday night. The game was moved to Saturday, but word of the tragedy quickly spread across the Idaho high school football landscape. It eventually made its way into the Bishop Kelly locker room, where head coach Tim Brennan shared the news with his team after the Knights won their final regular season game of the year. Well, that was when competition turned to unity. 9 BK players and 3 coaches gave Emmett players and coaches some encouragement before the game. Hours later, after a whirlwind of tragedy, the Emmett Huskies won their first 4A SIC title in school history. And what makes this so special is the Knights, they needed Emmett to lose. With the Huskies win, Bishop Kelly finished second, only behind the Huskies. But BK's senior captain Colby Weichert explains and shows us why learning isn't limited to a classroom.
Yeah, I just want to say, when I heard the news, although I didn't know him personally, it was like really sad to hear because, I mean, nobody should go through this. And the thing about football is that it brings everyone together as a family. And these are your brothers. You got to remember to have each other's back always. Like, you don't ever know what people are going through. So just always support your family and play for them. So good luck tonight, guys, and we have all of you in your prayers.
Oh, how well spoken is that? We have each other's back. It doesn't matter which school you root for or what fight song you march to. When the going gets tough, Bishop Kelly showed that this community and these teams can come together. In the meantime, Emmett will carry the 2nd seed into this week's state tournament where they will play Minico. BK, on the other hand, will carry the 6th seed and play Pocatello. Win or lose, these boys are a great example. These young men are a good example, a great example for all of us, and we wish them all the best. We're just 5 days away from probably what will be a very different looking Halloween. Whether or not you're planning on trick-or-treating with your kiddos this year, the craze of finding the right costume likely remains unchanged. In 2002, Idaho Life reporter John Miller visited an expert who offered up a few ideas on what costumes were in style and which ones were out.
If you're trying to pick a Halloween costume and you don't know which is which, and you don't want to have a cow or be a cow, just ask Annika.
Well, how old are you?
I'm 3.
Yeah. And you have a pretty good idea of what you want for Halloween, huh?
You know who I want to be?
Who do you want to be?
I want to be Cinderella.
But on second thought,
I think I want to be your
then again,
Pooh Bear.
Pooh Bear. How often does her mind change?
Daily.
Right. Minutely.
Superman.
Okay. Now this is getting ridiculous.
Target's Tom LeBaire says that usual cast of characters is back.
Star Wars is very popular.
Right.
Princess Barbie look is very good.
But aside from wee little web slingers in 2002, make way for the new guys.
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob.
SquarePants, yep. He's our big guy hitter.
You could be this dad. What is it with this thing?
All the kids love him. Some people even try the costumes on while they're here in the store.
Yeah. SpongeBob. I'd say the odds of that happening with me are pretty much 0. Okay, 1% chance. Anything else you can think of, maybe?
Elmo, Clifford, and Kermit bound to be popular this year. Annika says pretty much anything you wanna be.
Okay, you changed your mind again, huh?
She settled for this one.
I don't know who that is.
It's Agenda.
Agenta, of course.
Friend of Blue's Clues, whoever that is.
Yeah, good choice. Alrighty, have fun. Happy Halloween.
Thank you.
John Miller,
Bye.
Idaho's News Channel 7.
Oh, the pressure of finding just the right costume. Last month, Google put out a list of the most searched for costumes for Halloween this year. Witch is number 1, followed by a dinosaur, Harley Quinn, a rabbit, and a clown. All right, let's take a look at some of your comments that have been coming in during the show. Dawn says, how do you mention that most of our health districts have been failing us and not include our governor? The failure starts at the top. Let's move on. And Mike says, politicians should take a lesson from BK football team. I think so too, Mike. I loved that story. I was glad that we included that today. And just what a remarkable example those young men, those football players at Bishop Kelly are setting for all of us. As we said, it's inspiration for all of us. This one's my favorite, the 208. Jane, you and Brian make a great 208 team. Love the refreshing twist the 208 gives the news. Thank you. Mary from Jerome. Mary, my name's Kim. I'm not for sure if you were talking about me or Joe or I don't know, but I'm Kim, and it's great being with you today. And I'll be back here tomorrow, so will Brian. We'll see you then.